It's Toptember! Today I will be focusing on the top 10 best siblings in books. So, without further ado, number 10. The Flock from Maximum Ride. Now, we're just going to pretend that the books after, say, book 3 don't exist anymore, because that's when you get into their whole biological parent stuff. But in the beginning, basically, these guys were genetically enhanced in the same lab. Since they had no family, they were each other's family, and they worked together, they supported each other, and it was really great. The reason that these guys aren't higher up is because the ending of this series is just a train wreck. After, say book 3. After that, don't read it. Max is the oldest, so she kind of supports all the other ones. Gazzy and Iggy are kind of an evil team together, and Angel's the youngest little girl, and so everybody kind of coddles her. And it's just a very realistic sibling kind of relationship, I think. Again, ignoring the fact that Fang and Max get together later, because that was never okay. Number 9. Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and the whole Chronicles of Narnia series. Whenever anybody thinks of this series, the first thing that comes to mind are the names Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy. Everybody can name them off in their birth order, and they all just kind of come as a set. They're young children going through some hard times, and they discover this magical world together. Edmund does some regrettable things, but I think they forgive him by the end. Yeah, here he is as a king. I think that means he's forgiven. This book smells good. But these siblings are just really nice together, and they go on these charming adventures, and overall, some of their motivation seems to be to save Edmund throughout the thing. So that proves that they are really kind of close together, they're all each other have, their parents sent them away, and they stick together. Number 8! I actually can't find my book for this one, and it's making me so sad. Where did I put it? I organized it somewhere safe, away from everyone. But that is, spoiler alert for The Importance of Being Earnest, Jack and Algernon from The Importance of Being Earnest. I think them being brothers was just the perfect ending to this hilarious play. They already kind of acted like brothers. I mean, they teased each other and they saw each other all the time, and they just acted really ridiculous and high class, which was kind of the whole theme. And at the end it just tied it all together with them being brothers, so I'm showing just how ridiculous this society is and how ridiculous things can be tied up together. And this is the book we read for English class that wasn't totally depressing. I mean, we just read the poetry of T.S. Eliot and we were all like, the world is a lie, and then suddenly they're like, oh, the importance of being earnest. Silly people in Victorian England. Number 7 is Katniss and Prim from The Hunger Games. I couldn't put them higher just because I don't think that their reactions are necessarily realistic. At the beginning, she really kind of patronizes Prim, and Prim just kind of goes with it, even though she's 12, so that was kind of inaccurate. But at the same time, Prim is Katniss's entire motivation throughout the book. I mean, she volunteers for the Hunger Games in the first place because Prim is being taken away, and just the way she feels about Prim is a huge motivator for her. And it's really, really sweet to read. Katniss is seen as one of those hardened, like, power girl, female protagonist, but her weakness is her sister, and her weakness has always been her sister. And later on in the series, her sister kind of grows up more, and just seeing the way that she feels towards her sister is really sweet. Especially with their father dead and their mother in such a bad place, these two girls had to rely on each other a lot, and that really shows through as well. Number 6! We have the Lynch brothers from The Raven Boys. Ronan is one of the main characters, Matthew is his younger brother, and Declan is his older brother. This is kind of the opposite end of the scale to Katniss and Prim's relationship in that they also went through a horrible experience with their parents kind of not being there for them, but it just kind of made their relationship really tense. Ronan and Declan don't get along at all, but Ronan really wants to protect Matthew. He really loves his younger brother. And this is a really tender side of him that you never really see during the books. Ronan is an extremely complicated character. He is so great to read about. The funny thing is they tend to meet up in church, mostly. And you never really see Ronan as a church-going type. And then there's like happy-go-lucky Matthew, like, oh, hey, older brothers. And then Declan and Ronan are like, And I just really love their dynamic. Also very realistic. I mean, sometimes there is tension between siblings. In books, you don't always see that. Like, there tends to be, protective older sibling seems to be the archetype in general. And this time it's the older brother and the middle brother who, they think about each other sometimes, but they don't really show any affection towards each other. They live apart from one another. And it's the younger brother who's really the coddled one in the family. And it's just a really interesting dynamic. Number 5! Mikey and Mary McGill from the Everlost trilogy are so fantastic as examples of siblings who are at odds with each other but still care about each other. They died together in a similar accident, but then they were completely separated. Mikey sank to the center of the earth and Mary had to keep going, and they went their separate ways thinking that they'd never see each other again. Mikey McGill clawed his way back out of the earth and became the monster known as the McGill. Mary didn't forget herself as much, but Mikey totally did, and he became a monster. And Mary always knew in her heart that this was her brother, but of course it's Mary, so she's super righteous. I must do the right thing for the children, even at odds with my brother. But the sweetest thing is at the end of Everlost, when Mikey has forgotten entirely what he looks like and everything. Mary has a picture of him, shows it to him, he turns back into it. The one thing he hasn't forgotten throughout all of his days as a monster is his sister's name, and it's not Mary, it's Megan McGill, and he remembers that. They also are completely on opposite ends of the war that starts to break out in Everwild. They go their opposite ways again, and he fights against her, but at the same time he still cares about her. He still sees her as his sister, and he still loves her, but he knows that they can't completely get along. And the relationship that they have is just so beautiful. It's so perfectly done. Neil Schusterman. Number 4 is another book I don't have because I returned it to the library, but that's Morgan and Lex from Perfect Ruin. Again, I really love how it's the main character being the younger sibling. I don't think there's been a single one like that on the list yet. No, a main character is very rarely ever the younger sibling, and it's really exciting, especially for me since I'm an older sibling. I don't really know what it's like to be a younger sibling, and it's really cool to be in the shoes of a younger sibling and to, like, understand her relationship with her brother. She cares about him a whole lot, and he kind of brushes her off because I think he feels bad. He feels a lot of angst throughout the book for all the things that he's done. He tried to jump off the edge of internment, and he went blind, and he had that whole thing where he can't have children, and his life is just generally really sad. But his sister really cares about him and tries to cheer him up and visits him all the time. He's the one who kind of has a secret but keeps it from her because he cares about her, and they are just really great as a sibling pair. They love each other a lot, but they also don't, like, show it too much, and they argue and they don't get along exactly, and they still don't really understand each other, but they understand that they're family and they will always love each other. Number 3. These guys are from another book I've already reviewed, and that is the Baudelaire Children from Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. The Baudelaires go through everything together. From chapter 1, their parents are dead, they're on their own. Adults never help them, only their own intelligence can get them out of situations. They understand each other, they know, oh, maybe this is a time for Violet's inventing skills, maybe this is a better time for Sunny to bite things. And they rely on each other's talents as much as they rely on each other's encouragement, because all 3 of them are going through such a terrible time, and it's really important that they have each other throughout it. I especially like that it's such an age gap between Violet and Klaus, who are kind of similar in age. They have the same sort of, knowledge and life experience, and then Sunny, who's just a baby, but she kind of acts the same way. She's like, oh yeah, I'll just, climb up this elevator shaft using only my teeth, and they're like, yeah, okay, Sunny, just make sure you get the rope, and she's like, cool, I got it. And it's really funny. They're so funny. These books are the best. And again, the way they interact as siblings is pretty realistic. Sometimes they snap at each other, sometimes they don't get along too well, but mostly they just have to. They have to be together, they have to love each other, they have to get along, because they're all each other have, and there's an evil villain pursuing them, so run away very fast. Number 2. Yo, I promise I will never do that again. The Weasleys from Harry Potter. Ugh, I love them all. I love how Ron, as one of the main characters, kind of feels like a lesser known sibling. There's Bill, who was the firstborn. Charlie's kind of the cool guy doing interesting things in faraway locations. Percy is the perfect child. He's been prefect, he gets really good grades, he works really hard at his job. Fred and George are the jokesters, they're really funny, everybody loves them, they're very popular. And then Ginny is the girl and the youngest, so of course she's the one that they're all like, oh, coddle her. And Ron is just kind of tacked on. He's second last, he's just another guy, he doesn't really have anything completely special about him. And the way he struggles with that throughout the series is really prominent. He's always trying to outcompete his siblings, but at the same time he does care about all of them. The way that all of them interact with each other is super realistic. Fred and George are always kind of picking on Ron, they argue a lot. Ron and Ginny argue a lot. These are the people at school, but at the same time they love each other so much and they would do anything for each other. As evidenced in the 7th book when their lives are actually put on the line and they realize just how much they care about each other. And then you all know what I'm thinking about right now. I also love when Percy kind of betrays his family, thinks the ministry's doing the right thing. This is Percy's form of rebellion. He's like the perfectly prim and proper child. He rebels by not being on the right good portion of the war. There's like 3 kind of separate portions to the war, and Percy chooses the ministry at first, and his family is so distraught about it, and Ron's just kind of like, oh, Percy, he's a jerk, but you can tell it really bothers him. And then later on when Percy comes back, It's just such a relief to not only the characters in the book and the Weasley family, but to the reader. You're like, oh, I'm so glad that this family doesn't have a dispute anymore, because they deserve to be together. They all look alike, but they couldn't be more different. All of their unique personalities are fantastic, and watching them mesh together as siblings living in the same house is some of the best moments of the entire Harry Potter series. The Weasleys are Harry Potter's replacement family, and they are the reader's replacement family. And my number one pair of siblings, the ones nearest and dearest to my heart, are... Oh, hey, thanks brother, you brought the book. Ed and Al from Full Metal Alchemist! You can leave now. Thanks. Okay, this is a manga, I'm a weeb, don't look at my face. Look at these cuties. This, again, is an example of siblings who have gone through everything together, but it is just done perfectly. There is no way Hiromu Arakawa could have done this pair of brothers better. They both lost their parents at a very young age, they trained together in alchemy, they're very intelligent, and then they both made the biggest mistake of their lives. And in this moment, Ed revealed exactly how much he loves Alphonse. He said, "Take my arm, my heart, anything, just give my brother back to me. Don't take my little brother, he's all I have left." Ed sacrificed his arm to put his brother in the suit of armor, and their entire journey is motivated by trying to get Al his body back. And that starts this chain of events that is just the most fantastic manga I've ever read. They have these moments where they fight. They had this moment where they reflected on all the times they fought, and it was so realistic to what siblings are. It was just like, was the entire summation of siblings, where they talked about, oh, remember that time we fought over that toy? Yeah, remember we fought about who would marry Winry? No, I don't remember that. Don't say that. We never fought about that. These guys are at odds with each other. They joke together. They never really show any mushy-gushy emotion, but you can tell in the way they act exactly how much they care about each other. And it's only in moments that really have to reveal emotion that they even show it. But throughout all of their little interactions, you can tell exactly how they're on the same wavelength. They think together. They act the same way. They can make little plans just by eye contact. They're so cool. And that being said, even though they share so many things, they're completely different people. Ed is quick to anger, kind of feisty, and Al is just calm, like, brother, no. That's the most, like, common thing he ever says, is brother, no. And he's the younger brother, which is also really refreshing, seeing the younger brother have to keep the older brother in check. So they're completely their own people, at the same time they're inseparable parts of each other, and that is a beautiful thing. I just love these guys so much. I can't even explain. Insert picture here of how adorable they were as children. Now do you understand? Brotherhood is one of the major themes in this book, and what it means to be a brother to someone, and how you can love someone but at the same time you can kind of tease them, and how you can be so close to someone but at the same time you just wish you had your distance sometimes. So yeah, that's my list. See you later, Al. Who's texting me?
Who's texting me?
How dare you?
How dare you?
It's my phone.
It's my phone.
Stop copying me!